Today I'm doing something a little bit different from my normal videos. I took up music in mid-2023, and since then I've experimented with a lot of different tools for song making, jamming, and sound design. So today I'm kind of going to talk about my philosophy about gear, a little bit about what I have purchased and sold in 2024, and just my general thoughts on that. I'm a solid proponent that gear does not make the artist, but I also think that different tools and the interactions and ideas they inspire can be very beneficial in exploring your own personal sound. For me, a lot of that has revolved around sound design and portability. I travel a lot, and that means I need to be able to carry anything I want in either a backpack or a small bag. I don't travel with all my gear, but that has greatly influenced my decisions in 2024. I also really enjoy doing sound design. I will often find myself not motivated to kind of do a song or work on something permanent, so instead I will just open up a initialized patch and kind of plug away for sometimes hours and maybe eventually use it for a sound, maybe not. So going in chronological order, I started 2024 with just two things, my OPZ and my trusty Roland S-1. As you know, I love my Roland S-1, and some of my favorite compositions have been made on it. For such a small package that literally fits in my coat pocket, and sometimes some of my pants pockets, I can just do so much sound design and have so much control over kind of beautiful different sounds and songs. And as you've seen, if you watch my channel, I have created a ton of recreations of quite popular songs with just this one tool. So it's super powerful, such a small package, relatively cheap, great intro sort of starter synth. It probably does get eclipsed by a lot of the different gear that I have. For example, the Deluge or the MicroMonsta can probably make most of the sounds, or if not all of the sounds that this thing can do. But it's still so much fun to just pick this up. I don't worry about anything else. I just have the limited step sequencer. And I say limited in a good way, because you know, it limits you in creative ways. So yeah, I love the Roland S-1. I think it's probably the thing that kind of encouraged me the most to really dive deep into sound design, and I'm appreciative for that. I highly recommend it if you're just looking for a really nice sounding, small, compact synth. It's also nice, I use a mix-in all the time. I just recently, 5 days ago, bought my first mixer. But prior to that, I would pretty much just use the mix-in on the S1, and that would cover a lot of my bases. So moving on, that was all I had until someone offered me a little Volca Keys for $60. The Volca Keys is interesting for me because it's actually what kind of kicked me off into the world of synthesizers. I was on YouTube one day and I stumbled upon this person's song, the artist named Lizard in the Spring, and their song, A Quick One Before the Eternal Worm Devours Appalachia. It was made with just a clawhammer banjo and the Volca Keys. And this has to be one of my favorite songs. I listen to it all the time. It was created with just this, and it kind of made me realize how expressive and emotional that synthesizers could be. And then I started watching Volcanized videos to kind of get other kind of input on a keys. And his work is just awesome. If you haven't watched a Volcanized video, he has amazing kind of jam videos where he uses different Volcas, especially the Volca bass and the Volca keys, to create really, really amazing and well-sounding jams. So highly recommend. However, I never really gelled myself with the kind of UI, the touch capacitive keys, and I don't think I'll be keeping the Volca keys for too much longer. I've made a couple kind of solo songs with it that I may or may not release at some point. I really like the video I put together for him, but the actual composition isn't as good. So we'll see if I put those together and if I keep the keys. Right now I still have it. For $60, I kind of figured why not hold on to it, and we'll see if I get rid of it. Jumping forward to May, I was looking for an upgrade to my OPZ. The OPZ and I had kind of a love-hate relationship. For its size and immediacy, I literally don't think it has a competitor. I know a lot of people would say the Woovbox is a competitor. I've never tried it, but the visual language of the OPZ is extremely clear to me, and I could make simple beats without even looking at it. The downsides, I was constantly worried about breaking it, just constantly. I wanted something also with better sampling, and that would help me learn a bit more. The OPZ, I felt like I could make a billion beats, but I didn't really understand what to do next. I would add some punch-in effects, which I really did enjoy, but I used them more as crutches than tools I was experienced with. Then I stumbled across the Deluge. I watched every video of the Deluge so I could find out as much as I could, and I quickly decided that it was for me. So I traded my OPZ and a little bit of cash for a second-hand Deluge. The Deluge is awesome and it gets better all the time. I have learned more about music and songwriting with the Deluge than any other tool. It's so quick and effective to make different sections, it has a massive range of sounds, multi-sampling, bunch of different effects, and most importantly, amazing dev team, open source dev team that is constantly putting out new updates for free. I've even updated a few features myself. I want to make more videos on the Deluge, so if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments. The problem with the Deluge, it really works best with it when it has friends. It's an awesome solo machine and you could make any genre with it alone, but adding just an extra piece of gear to utilize other functions is just so much fun. Which leads me on to the Neutron. Let me just make a little space, because it's quite big. So far, I have avoided everything Eurorack. I have avoided watching videos, I don't look at new modules, but there's just something so much fun about plugging in wires to route signals and do sound design with that. So when I came across a Neutron for, I think it was around $100, I figured I might as well try out the semi-modular style. Long story short, I love it. With every new gear purchase, I almost always learn something that I could do with my other gear with how I interact with a new piece of gear. In that case of the Neutron, I started learning how to use delay effects more effectively and musically. Up until that point, I'd kind of used delay randomly, kind of just to taste, but with the Neutron, patching a modulated delay and using it to create drones or hectic rising rhythms really kind of changed my point of view and how I could use them on other pieces of gear. And that actually really came out on my Roland S-1 because I started thinking about effects as a piece of the music instead of kind of a crutch for the music. And I think that's made me a much better musician overall. Then out of nowhere, I got an email about the MicroMonsta 2. I had actually signed up for the mailing list on this way back when I first bought the OPZ, before I even had the Roland S-1. It seemed like the perfect compact setup at the time. I completely forgot about being on the mailing list, but they seemed so in demand that I decided I might as well give it a try, and at worst I could just sell it for cost. The MicroMonsta is great. It has super lush sounds, tons of modulation options, very nice sounding effects, and it was my first 3-oscillator synth where I could select what each oscillator type could be. Unfortunately, since I don't have a studio setup right now, the MicroMonsta isn't the first thing I reach to when I'm working on something. I keep it in the box it arrived in, and that's enough for me to forget about it a lot. So I'll either sell it soon or figure out kind of how to integrate it into my setup a little more. It sounds awesome. I don't regret purchasing it, but I just haven't been using enough to really justify keeping it. So back to where I said the Deluge really works best with friends. In comes the Linnstrument. I am a sucker for a good deal, as I think I mentioned, and I saw this at a very low price relative to their average used price, and I just couldn't resist. I was really craving some expression. I'd been using the Deluge, and you can get expressive sounds with the Deluge by doing automation and that sort of thing, but I really enjoy kind of expression while I'm jamming, especially. I think that's where you get a lot more of a feel for kind of like the music that you're playing if you can expressively control it. For example, on the Roland S-1, I will get that sometimes by using the I can't remember what it's called, but the effect where you will move it, the demotion effect. There we go. And so this pairs so well with the Deluge in terms of being able to control all sorts of different sounds, where you can quickly modulate either X, Y, or Z, and just make really lush, really amazing sounds. And it's super simple to connect into the Deluge. It's super easy you don't have to use a computer to control any of the settings. It is so much fun, but I will say I use it mostly when I am kind of just jamming out. It unlocks so much in the Deluge, and you can set up just quick patches with the Deluge that have extra expression in no time at all. And that's where I decided to stop buying anything synth related. I had it all and I wanted nothing else. Until, of course, someone offered me a mint condition OP1 field for a really, really nice price. The OP1 seemed like a horrible choice for me. I already had the Deluge, which can pretty much do anything the OP1 can and more. But the allure of just trying out this OP1 workflow was kind of too much for me. I'm still trying to figure out if it fits in my setup. It's kind of in a funny place in my workflow where it doesn't fit super well with what I've currently worked up. So most of the time I kind of use it on its own. But honestly, it is quite fun because it is smaller and kind of more fully featured than some of my other smaller synths. So we'll see if I keep it. I've kind of given myself a 2 or 3 months challenge where if I don't really find it changing kind of my habits or creating a lot of unique stuff with it, then I'm going to get rid of it. This whole process of buying and selling gear, trying out new things and interactions, sometimes does feel like a pointless effect of a consumer mindset applied to an art-based hobby. Unnecessary spending instead of getting better with the tools you already have can kind of actually hinder your music production rather than encourage it. And I know I don't need all of these. The song that inspired me to even start making music and synthesis is one synthesizer that I actually use the least. But what works for me and will not necessarily work for you. Some people hate the Deluge for its UI, but the Deluge has taught me more about sound design and song making than anything else, and I personally love the UI. The OP1 has already helped me learn to embrace imperfections and try to find workarounds when you run into a wall. The S1 has helped me embrace minimalism and kind of finding workarounds when you have a limitation. All these things are just tools. Especially if you're early in your music making experience, don't be afraid to buy and sell gear to find out what works for you. As primarily a hobbyist, the most important thing is that I'm enjoying myself, regardless of tool. If you want any more videos on any one of these synths or a combination of them, let me know. Thanks for watching.